Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Dwarf Fortress 2014 Anvilquested. First thing we're going to do, like always, is we're going to profile a dwarf. So let's check that out. We now have 54 dwarves in the fortress. Well, that does include the dwarves who have passed on, but if we get them, we'll just skip it. So, number 33. Number 33 is Fyodor. So let's check him out. Okay. Fyodor Fencelakes the Clothier. He has no relatives with him at the fortress. He has his mother and father and his 4 grandparents, and he does have 2 younger brothers and 3 younger sisters. Again, none of them are at the fortress. Fyodor has been ecstatic lately. He dined in a legendary dining room recently. He admired a fine furnace lately. Did you? Where? He has been satisfied at work lately. He is 63 years old, born on the 28th of Galena in the year 88. He is very fat. His eyes are copper, his sideburns are clean-shaven, his very long mustache is neatly combed. His very long beard is neatly combed. His hair is clean-shaven, his teeth are crowded, his copper skin is slightly wrinkled. His hair is chestnut. He is quite durable, but he is slow to heal and quite clumsy. Fyodor likes chert, lead, violet spessartine, clear glass, battle axes, quivers, traction benches, chains, blue peafowls for their enormous fan tails. In case you're wondering, a peafowl is like a baby peacock, I believe. And fisher berries for their round shape. When possible, he prefers to consume tapir cheese and peach cider. Oof, it's going to be rough getting a hold of that for him. He absolutely detests flies. He has great creativity, great analytical abilities, and the ability to focus, but he has little linguistic ability. He personally sees perseverance in the face of adversity as bullheaded and foolish. Is put off by family, does not care about fairness, and does not particularly value the truth. He dreams of mastering a skill. He finds the humor in most situations, but he's greatly moved by art and natural beauty, and he is troubled by this since he dislikes the natural world. These dwarves and their personality. Okay, well, that is Fyodor. Now, here's the thing, folks. We have 2 squads of Mark's dwarves, but one of them is full, the other only has their commander, Bumchafes. I figure we are going to need some time to prepare the dwarves and have them train up their skills so that when the goblins do attack, which it's almost now the 3rd year, I'm surprised they haven't already, that we are ready to stop them. So, we are going to have a draft. Now, I've taken all of our unassigned dwarves, and I've assigned them each a number. There's 18 of them. And we are going to, I'll show them to you. Here they all are. Now, 4 of them are going to be drafted into our military. So we're going to do that the same way we do the dwarf showcases, through random numbers. So we're going to go from 1 to 18, and we're going to see who gets drafted. First, 12. Number 12 is Good Bad Dwarf. Oops. Good Bad Dwarf, you are now in Bumchafes Bandits. Next, number 8. Number 8 is Lucia Silveraxe. Lucia, welcome to the squad. Next, number 15. 15 is Firos. All right, and our final dwarf who is going to be drafted into the military as a Marks dwarf. I've already got Lucia. Next. Number 13, Orthea. All right, and you will never find, ladies and gentlemen, a more fair methodology for determining who without skill gets to be in the military. So I hope that you appreciate the transparency. All right, so what are we up to? That's not what I want. Well, one thing that I do want to share with you is that I put together a uniform for our Marks dwarves so that they can arm themselves for battle. And that uniform is under the uniform screen, and I call it toxotai, and that is the Greek or Byzantine word for archer. Now, let's talk a little bit about armor, because in Dwarf Fortress, armor can be very, very complicated. In fact, if you look for optimal armor arrangements on the internet, you will find some tips that are kind of outrageous, where they recommend that you put on 8 different cloaks and 7 different hoods and 3 different mail shirts. I want my dwarves to be protected, but I don't want to be stupid. It just doesn't make sense to have a dwarf running around with 7 cloaks, and that's just dumb. So I'm trying to approach this from a realistic perspective, where, just like the Byzantine military, they're going to have softer armor on the inside, around their skin, obviously, because metal shapes, and we are going to then have metal on the outside. Right now that's iron, but eventually when we have flex stone and access to magma, we'll have steel. But so let me talk a little bit about what we're doing. In most places, we're going to have an under armor of leather and then an over armor of iron. So for example, the first thing that all of our dwarves are going to put on is a leather robe. Now, why a robe? That doesn't sound very military-ish. Well, let me explain. This game is modeled so well that armor actually covers certain parts of the body. Some armors do, some armors don't. Of all the clothing items, the robe covers the most. It literally covers everything from the neck all the way down to the feet, and even some parts of the feet. So in terms of blocking things, or making sure that hits do not hit the dwarf, the robe covers the most. The next thing that covers the most is a cloak. So the first thing they're going to put on is the robe. Then over the robe, they're going to put on an iron mail shirt, and then over the iron mail shirt, they're going to put a leather cloak. That's the body. On their head, they're going to wear an iron helm, and then over the iron helm is going to be a leather hood. On their pants, they're going to wear leather trousers, and over that, iron greaves. On their hands, they're going to wear leather mittens, and over that, iron gauntlets. Now, this is kind of weird because a glove, if I were to make a leather glove, you could not wear a leather glove and then an iron gauntlet over that glove. The game won't allow it. It's too much armor. But you can wear leather mittens and then wear the gauntlets over those. Which, if you know what a mitten is, makes no sense. A mitten is basically a glove without fingers. So if you're wearing a mitten, you cannot move your fingers separately from each other. But the game, fortunately for us, doesn't model that. So in order to make this work, we're having leather mittens with iron gauntlets over them. Even though it would make much more sense to have leather gloves, I am not going to complain. Well, I just did, but anymore. And then finally, on the legs, or on the feet, we're going to have socks, which have to be made out of cloth. You can't make leather socks, which, thinking about it, is probably for the best, because that would smell pretty bad, I would think, after a while. And iron high boots over those. And finally, they're going to get a wood shield. Why wood? Well, because I want them to move quickly, and the more they're weighed down, the slower they'll move. And an iron shield does not protect any better than a wooden shield, and it weighs more. So I'm going with wood because it's the lightest. And finally, an iron crossbow. So I need to produce all of these items for these dwarves, otherwise they will be naked and they will get negative feelings from that. So what I've done is I've requested that Marcus Aurelius, our ironworking dwarf, create all of these items. And as soon as the items are created, I will then tell the dwarves to switch to that uniform and they will change into it, but we're not there yet. So other than that, we are continuing to smooth our memorial halls. We are also continuing to work on the underground cistern. We're getting there. In fact, I really wanted to play a little bit more before recording, but I wanted to set up Bumshapes bandits before anything because they need to start training because we're going to get attacked, one would imagine, at any time, which is why I recorded now. But you'll realize why I said that I thought this game was very slow to Let's Play, because this is already, what, episode 15 or 16, and that's not counting the appendices, and we haven't even had to face one goblin siege yet. Not one. So, that's kind of our situation. Now, in terms of the squads, let's go to, if you remember, S is the squad menu. I want to make sure they are both set to active and training. And they're not. So Bumshapes Bandits, you are now active training, although you don't currently have any weapons or armor. So you're just going to mill about. That's okay for now. I'm not too worried about that. Marcus Aurelius will be done soon with the armor. And Daz. Daz is doing all the leather. Which, by the way, I should make sure of, because I didn't see that on the list. It's not. So I'll show you how to do this real quick. Q for new order, then you type in what you want. So leather, robe. Let's go with 5 more of those. Leather cloak, 5 more of those. Leather mitten, 5 more of those. Okay, we have cloak, robe, mitten, hood. 5 more of those. Trousers. 5 more of those. And I think that's it. And we have plenty of socks. Or we're going to be making plenty of socks. So I think that's all right. Okay, so 13 minutes into the episode, we can start actually playing the game. Let's take a look upstairs at what's going on. Stock level is low of chert blocks, and we cannot produce chert blocks. Why? Why can we not produce chert blocks? We have more chert than we can shake a stick at. Oh yeah, so in between episodes, I have worked on the app that gives you the stocks, the workflow app. So why? There's plenty of chert. There's plenty of orders to make chert blocks. Why is no one making chert blocks? Let's look at the profile here. Permit all. Oh, oops, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I want the minimum to be, or the maximum to be proficient. There we go. All right, so this doesn't make sense. There should be plenty. Let me show you the workflow. So you go to Alt-W, Workflow Constraints. It's funny, this one doesn't have one set. I'm not really sure how the workflow works, but I know if I do the S for status, it'll take me to this page where we have chert blocks and any wood bolts. So these are our 2 stocks, and we're a little low on chert. I'm trying to get between 150 and 200. Now the question is, why is it not working? And that I don't honestly know. Now see, the bolts are suspended. That's what the red S means, because we have enough at this time. But if I were to Alt-W here, you'll see that here's the workflow constraint. So why the one for my blocks doesn't show up in the Mason's workshop, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So even though it's a repeating job, the whole thing is just weird. You know, so maybe one of these jobs down here is the workflow job. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I don't know. So if the one of you out there really understands the workflow plugin and you can tell me what's going on, I'd appreciate it if you let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to start making blocks manually again. And I don't want to really do that. So we still have Dazla's corpse there in our... It's in our refuse stockpile, interestingly enough, not in our corpse stockpile. Well, yeah, because I guess only citizen, like dwarven corpse get to go in the corpse stockpile. We're doing pretty well, though. Our double wall is almost up. In fact, let's finish it. And we'll go with shirt blocks. There they are. Almost missed them. Okay. So we have tons of wood. I've got it worked out so that the wood goes from the outside of the fort to this main wood stockpile and then is transferred from this stockpile down into the fortress to these wood stockpiles down here. We're on repeat for charcoal. The bolts are fine. Carpenter's not doing anything. That's kind of a waste. Let's get some barrels. Maybe 5 barrels and 5 bins. Okay. Otherwise, everything seems to be going pretty well. It is... Oh, leather robes have been completed. It is late summer, so the humans have come and gone. We are now waiting for the dwarf merchants and envoy to show up. The elves skipped us this year. Our entrance is working. There's our little puppy guarding it. So let's talk about, now before the video ends, let's talk about our priorities moving forward. So priority number 1 is defense. And we've got that mostly sewn up. All I need to do now is put some traps in the hallway, just some cage traps to capture a few goblins just for use in the arena to train up my military. I'm not going to overdo it. You can put like hundreds of cage traps. Oh, Autumn is here. And you can, as a result, stop any invasion, but that's kind of cheap. I don't like doing that. So I'm just going to have a couple just to get a few captives, but the rest will be taken down by my Marks dwarves. And training is not going to really help my Marks dwarves out because for every bolt you shoot, you get a little bit better. So actually, standing there and firing at the enemies in my little trap, you know, this place, will do much more toward raising their skill level than training ever could, because they'll be shooting out arrows like machine guns. So that's the key there. The next priority after defense is making sure that we have enough food and drink. So that's going to be starting my above ground / below ground farm where I have all the seeds that I've been able to scavenge from the area around plus what I buy in caravans. And that's also going to include more work with the turkeys. Priority number 3 is making sure the living quarters are furnished and the cistern is full. So we're almost there. As soon as this is all smoothed out and all these blocks are removed, we will dig out the last... Well, first we have to build a floodgate, but once that's all done and hooked up to a switch, then we're going to dig out that last little part by the river and then cover it up, and then we'll have a cistern, which will give us water at all times. Yes, I know we're low on sure blocks. I don't really know what to do about that because the workflow isn't working. All right, well, that's priority 3. Priority 4 is digging down into the depths and going to the far bottom where the magma is. We are going to need about 15 to 20 idle unassigned for that. And the reason why is because I move quickly. Like if I break into the top of the cavern, I like to have my unassigned immediately build a staircase all the way down and then immediately build a wall outside that staircase. I have a methodology that I use. You'll see it, and I use it a lot. So I'm used to it, but it's a process that requires a lot of cheap labor because we have to move quickly. There might be creatures in the... Sorry about that, folks. Had a little bit of an error. I'm back now. What I was trying to say is there may be creatures in the cavern lair that will come up and kill everyone in my fort. So it's important that I make sure that these shafts that are going down and through the caverns all the way to the bottom are walled in as quickly as possible. So that's priority number 4. And then priority number 5, as a result of that, is steel. We need to produce steel so that my military dwarves can be outfitted in the absolute best armor available. And because armor use is a skill that gets raised as you use the armor, we want to have the steel relatively quickly. Because if the dwarves are wearing full steel armor but have no armor skill, they'll be killed immediately because they won't be able to move in the armor. They'll just fall over and get killed. So we need to get them some armor training, which happens through training in their barracks. I'm not going to do anything cheap in this LP like a danger room, which is basically a little room with a spear trap where these wooden spears keep coming out and the dwarves avoid them. The spears are too weak to hurt them, but they get to dodge them, and so their armor, dodge, and shield skills go up really high. It works, definitely, but it's kind of cheap, so I'm going to stay away from it.
No, it won't work.
And the dwarven merchants have arrived, just as I predicted they would, so next episode, we're going to see what we can see with regards to trading. So once again, I'm Marcus Aurelius. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.